Good morning, everybody. 8:10 a.m. November 14th. November 14th. Welcome to my channel. We are right, basically, kind of almost where we were last Friday. Right back down. And it's nuts. This market never ceases to amaze. A lot of Feds talk yesterday. I guess it was to sell the rumor, sell the news on the government reopening, right? Combined with a bunch of Feds saying that they're not really sure of a cut in December. And then you have the lofty AI valuations that Michael Burry's talking about. Michael Burry shut down his hedge fund and said something's coming November 25th. He's just saying he can't read, kind of said like he can't read the market as well as much anymore, but feels like this AI stuff is just overblown and pretty crazy. There's just a lot of stuff going on, right? A lot of stuff going on. And there's more Fed talk today. So this is all pushing back rate cut bets over lofty valuations. Now, if you look at some of this big stocks, right, that move our markets, like Apple's barely down. Microsoft's, back down to where it was the other day, but really not crazy. Nvidia is down a little bit, right? Tesla's getting hit. Meta's already taken a big slide. It's actually under 600 right now. So, but you got these high flyer data center stocks that have been getting smoked. Quantum computing, stuff that doesn't have a lot of revenue and stuff like that, smoked. Right? Getting destroyed. Right? And this question, we just had 3 years in a row markets going up substantially. You know, I'm not sitting here calling a recession or whatever. I'm not really into that, doing that, right? But this is pretty crazy. Now, can this market keep doing this? I mean, it can. And some people talk about the crash, dot-com crash. This is not really like that. That was anything with a dot-com name on it back then. Didn't even have revenue, made money. This is not like that. This isn't like that at all. I mean, what are you going to say? Microsoft's not a good company? Apple stinks? They make money, right? It's not like the dot-com era. However, there is lofty valuations, like Palantir and stuff like that. You can't dispute that. So we'll see. We'll see. We're testing the key area that I talked about last Friday again. We're right at last week's lows and futures in the NASDAQ. Okay? Just a real quick shot. Here's your NASDAQ futures. That's last week's lows. I talked about this yesterday in my Discord. I said that poor structure from last Friday, I said that is susceptible to get cleaned up. And that's what we did. We already cleaned it up. Came right down to this end of this support level here in this demand zone and bounced. So now we're bouncing. This is a little different. Now in the ES, you haven't cleaned all that up yet because the Nasdaq's relatively weaker. Okay, the ES has not cleaned all this up yet. The Nasdaq is relatively weaker. Now we're getting a little bounce. Now this could be a dead cat bounce. We came back here again. This will be a double bottom basically here in the Nasdaq. Does this get bought? Do we recover? Okay, I don't know. I don't know. That nobody knows really, right? I don't know. Is this it? Are the bears going to be like, "Yes, I told you," right? Because that's what they love to do. And they're wrong most of the time. I don't know. But we'll get into it today. Alright, so welcome to my channel. My name is Steven Gonzalez. I use market profile and buying profile to find structure in the markets. Long supply and demand, gamma exposure levels, the most traded price of the year, the month, the week, and the previous day. That is my edge. Okay. I also use anchored VWAPs. Came in handy yesterday. Also use market internals. Also came in handy yesterday. Morning, Chief. Also, bookmap. Didn't need bookmap yesterday. It's crucial when I get my perfect picture plays and trade in future setups, which I haven't really been there. I will use my bookmap, right? And then the weekly expected move. Now, a couple of notables on that weekly expected move. Google pretty much hit its expected move to the upside. I believe Amazon did as well. Okay. Who else joined that party? AMD did as well. Netflix did as well. So you had some stocks. Berkshire Hathaway's over expected move. Eli Lilly's over its expected move. All right. This market is quite volatile. Right? And like I said, I even said it last Friday. The move up we just had was very poor structure. And I put it in my Discord. I'll show you that in a little bit. All right. So this is what we're talking about, folks, today. All right. Now, hopefully you join me and subscribe and set an alert. I do this every morning. Please come join me. Give you the latest, the greatest, in the real deal of what's actually going on in the markets. Okay, no fluff, no predictions, just what's going on. What is going on, right? And I also give you NASDAQ and ES trade scenarios at the end of the stream. All right. Now, if you want more in-depth coverage, I've been going live every day. You're going to join my Discord. That's this Confluence Trading. Go to the YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Now, give you what I was saying yesterday in my channel. I was live, so I didn't have to post too much. I'm not going to post as much when I'm live. But let's talk about yesterday, all right? Yesterday. Now, put a lot of levels out there, right? And then I said that NASDAQ ticks again. We're staying under zero. This has been happening. Okay, whenever that happens, pops are going to get shorted. Okay, now this is 1257, and I trading top step again, and based on these ticks, I was just waiting for the pullback to short, right? And I got it. Had a nice day. So closed out that top step, locked it up, and I wrote this. This is the NASDAQ yesterday. I said this poor structure is susceptible to get cleaned up. I said it right here. Very poor structure from last Friday's recovery. If this market weakened, this could be taken out. Well, it already took it out. Also talked about the 185 level in NVIDIA. It's a big gamma level. All right. The monthly gamma flip point in the SPX was 67.45. It actually broke that as well. And then the ES filled its gap. And then NASDAQ filled its gap earlier. Okay. Who knows what will happen? I don't know. All I know is that trade was in front of me. Right? And only can talk about what the market is doing. What the market is doing. Okay? So, let's get into the watch list now. The VIX is at a 22. It's up 12.10%. Crude Crude is up 1.6%. It's at 59.63 a barrel. If that starts ripping up, that's not going to bode well for the markets. Okay, 30-year bonds are being bought. Dollar is down 0.16. The Dow is down 0.68. ES down 1.07%. 10-year yield is actually down 1.09%. That's going to hurt the Russell. I'm sorry. That's going to actually help the Russell in help mortgage rates. Okay. You want that yield to go lower. All right. Russell's down 1.24%. Nasdaq's down 1.55%. It's about to take out those lows. I think this is a little different now. You tested these lows again. Oof. Let's see. Ethereum down 2.05%. Gold down 2.67%, going back to the 4,000 level possibly. Bitcoin, there we go. Bitcoin cracked under the 100K at about 95. Okay, I've been talking about that. It was at a crucial level, 200-day moving average, all that. It's at a big level now. Okay, I'll get into that in a little bit. Silver down 4%. Metals just had a little rise. Okay, and now they're getting pullbacks, right? Let's get over to the Mag 7 Plus. Now, Berkshire Hathaway, usually a nice little hedge. It's been moving up, folks, and it's up pre-market. That's safety. Okay, that's safety. Let's go to the 1%ers. GE down 1%. Boeing down 1.22. Amazon down 1.78. Meta's down 1.86. Google down 2.52. Broadcom down 2.69. Nvidia down 3.16. AMD down 3.33. Tesla is getting smoked. And we're at Tesla's expected move to the downside is 389, and it's at 384. Okay. Coinbase smoked, down 5.1%. That's a Bitcoin proxy. Expected move to the downside this week was 275. So that is under its expected move. Okay. This, I think, might be a change in the markets today. Well, no. Again, I'm not going to tell you, yes, this is the day. I'm not going to tell you. I need the market to prove to me that it is. But it's looking right now like, okay, we're down here again. This might scare the buy the dip buyers, because we just bought the dip here a week ago and we're back down. I don't know because a lot of those high flyers is getting smoked. Rigetti, the D Waves, the Oklo, they're getting smoked. Okay. Now moving on, top sectors. Oil's getting love, right? Oil always makes money. Doesn't matter, right? So money's floating into energy, right? Chevron's up. PepsiCo's up. It's a staple. Costco is up. Okay. Now you 1%ers here. Caterpillar down. Goldman Sachs down. United Healthcare down. Uber down 1.68. Qualcomm down 1.72. Oracle has been getting obliterated. Oracle. Walmart, that's interesting. That's a stable. That's down 2 point, cracked under 100. Interesting. GEV Vernova. Okay. High flyer. All right. Industrial there. The miners pulling back pretty hard. Okay, down 4.25%. Palantir is getting woof. Boy, oh boy. Palantir is down 5%. That thing was up, I think, the 220s. Okay. Let's look at I don't want to add it. Well, not in this list. Hold on. I think I'm going to add something real quick. I don't think I have this in this list. Maybe I do. I just want to put it on here. Vive. This is like a healthcare. I think it's Vive. It's Viva. Let's see here. All right. Who's looking out here? Well, I know Nubank reported earnings. So they are up 3.21. Warner Brothers up 2.2. Whirlpool up 2%. That's it. Shake Shack up. T-Mobile. That makes sense. T-Mobile flight to safety a little bit. Let's look at laggards. There's your Iris Energy. That was a high flyer, right? Down 10.75%. Oklo, high flyer, down 8.92%. D-Wave down 8.72%. Applied Materials at earnings, they were not that great. Tilray down 7. Soundhound. Here's Quantum Computing. IonQ down 6.39%. Riot down 5, almost 6%. Hood. So crypto and the high flyers down. MicroStrategy is down to 196. That is getting smoked. CoreWeave smoked. Western Digital, SoFi, Oscar Health, all Roblox, Hims. All right, all these stocks are not looking good, right? Moving on. Two sectors. And you know what's going to be the laggard today. I mean, that'd be shocking if it wasn't. Obviously, it's semis. Energy up 0.49. Real estate. Staples. That makes sense. Money's rotating a little bit into them, right? Now, 1%er. You have discretionary down 1.25. That's your Tesla, your Home Depot, your Amazon. Technology down 1.88%. That's the largest market cap weighted sector in the S&P 500. That's your Apple, your Nvidia, your Microsoft. Semiconductors down 2.86%. That's a risk off market. That's a risk off market. Okay? Almost down 3%. Almost down 3%. Okay? Now, let's move on. Let's move on to economic calendar here. Okay, Feds speaking again. The Feds did a good job of taking this market down yesterday, talking about inflation sticky, inflation's this, inflation's that. I don't know about cuts. All that. Right? All that. So at the end of the day, right, government shutdown, gave the sugar high. Once it was reopened, it was to sell the news. And it was then, oh, we're taking rate cuts off. Oh, and then everything's overvalued. Oh, and then Michael Burry shuts down his hedge fund, right? Very crazy. Okay? Now, that is our economic calendar, which is just Fed speak. Let's look at juice here. Okay, we'll get into this stuff. I don't see anything on the docket for Trump. Okay? Now, this is a couple things that came out. U.S. Labor Secretary Chavez de Reme, I don't know how to say that. I'm unsure if the BLS were able to release the October CPI. U.S. Commerce Department, U.S. Quarter 3 GDP, second rating to be released November 26th. U.S. Commerce Department, the October personal income spending and PCE inflation is to be released on November 26th. So the government shutdown did affect this status stuff. And how is the Fed going to now judge cuts, right? So that's where we're at, folks. That's where we're at. So, is this an overreaction? I don't know. Let's get into some stock news here. Applied Materials stock slumped 5.8 after the semiconductor company warned that spending on chip-making gear in China is anticipated to fall next year. Tesla stock fell 3.7 after the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission announced that the electric vehicle manufacturer is recalling around 10,500 units of its Powerwall 2 backup battery. Warner Brothers stock rose 2.9 after the Wall Street Journal reported that Paramount, Comcast, and Netflix are preparing bids for the media company. Wow. Interesting. All right, that's good there. Let's look at some more news here. Google offers EU to change ad tech policy. No divestment. Uh, says judge to weigh if Texas AG can block Kenvue dividend over Tylenol. Amazon, Microsoft back effort to curb Nvidia exports to China. And this is just what I've been talking about. The U.S. stock index futures dipped, signaling a fresh round of sell-off on Wall Street after hawkish comments from the Federal Reserve officials that added doubts about the interest rate cut in December. Talked about that, right? That's why we're moving down. Now look, I think there was some explosion in Russia about oil, so let's see. Oil prices climb, boosted by supply fears after the Black Sea port of Novorossiysk halted oil exports following a Ukrainian drone attack that hit an oil depot in the major Russian energy hub. That's why crude's getting a nice bounce. Okay. Let's see here. Walt Disney, Jeffries cuts target price to 136 from 144. Let's see. Applied Materials, TD Cowen raises target price to 260 from 250. Okay. Best Buy, JP Morgan raises target price to 97 from 89. Alrighty. Now, what we're going to look at here is the Fed Watch tool. And what are we noticing here? What are we noticing? Check that out. A month ago, the chances of a rate cut was 90, let's call it 95%. 95. We went to 50. Somehow it raised up 5 points. We were at 50 yesterday. It's back to 55. That's what got this market shaking. That's what's got the market shaking. Okay. That is pretty big cut though in half of the probabilities, right? Now I know Fed Powell's term is going to be ending and he's going to be replaced. So, and then Trump's probably going to get what he wants. Okay? But that's what's going on there. All right? Moving on. Let's look at those internals. Not much to say about those internals, unless they just showed me the continued weakness yesterday. Everything blood red. All top sectors were weak. This is the gamma flip point for the month. 67.45. Underneath this is negative gamma. Okay? Negative gamma means the volatility will exponentially go up. So today, get ready for huge swings. We're going to be in negative gamma. Okay? Negative gamma. Now, yesterday, this is where you know the selling is serious. Okay? This is the ratios for vol-D, right? This shows you that there was a 3.41 ratio of volume going into down stocks versus up stocks in the NYSE exchange. 3.79 to 1 in the NASDAQ exchange. That is serious. Now, I've seen this up to 15, COVID and stuff like that. Okay? The other serious one is the NASDAQ 8 advanced decline line. When you have that thing over minus 2,000, all pops will be sold. Okay? That was at a negative 2650. That is pretty bearish. Okay? So all these things were pointing, and the internals were boom, 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 boom. Weakening, 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 right? All those were turning. Okay? So this is real. This is real. Now, just to give it if we're talking about recession or a crash or something like that, right? You don't see green anywhere. You see red everywhere. It don't matter. Okay? It does not matter. Excuse me. That it does not matter. Everything's down. Okay? So that's your internal recap. Let's go to dailies. Here's our daily charts. Okay, so yesterday, whew, big day. Notice where we went to. This right here is last Friday's close. Last Friday's close. Remember, that was a big hammer candle. See, that's last Friday's close. We came right to it, got bought. Also came to this channel that goes way back. Got bought. Well, where are we now, right? We didn't hit the 50, but where are we now? We are at 664.55. 664.55. We are right here. Okay? What did I say? 664. Yeah. We are right here. Okay? Not quite at these lows. Remember, this is last week's lows. But we're down here. Okay? Remember, this is not as weak as the NASDAQ. And, let me get my marker out. We're coming down to a highly congested area again. Okay? All this area, see? There's a lot of trading volume here. Okay, we came down here once, bounced. We're down here now, 664. We're here. This is last week's lows. Now, keep this in mind. This is the expected move to the downside, the indicator that I gave you guys for free. That expected move to the downside, 653.57. That also aligns with last month's lows. Do we go there today? Maybe. We might go there today. Because if we take this out and keep going, I would think we probably would go there. Okay? Now, moving on to our ES futures, just to see the picture of the futures. In futures, we have crushed that 50-day moving average. Right? Big. We just opened, pushed up a little bit, and boom, driving down. Now in futures, it's interesting. My Nasdaq, my futures and NinjaTrader showing that we breached this. Interesting that it's not showing me. Oh, that's Nasdaq. My bad. This is the ES. I'm sorry. All right, so that's last week's lows. Are we going to test this again? Now remember, see how thin this is? That's because that was very poor structure on the way up, and we can clean this up. I would think at minimum we're going to hit last week's lows. That's your, what is that, 66.55s? Yeah. Okay, 100-day moving average here. Last month's lows all the way down here. Okay, now let's look at the weaker one, the Qs. The Qs. Okay. Yesterday, what did we do? Well, didn't hit the 50-day, but we breached the Friday's close, right? And then bounced. Right. So where are we now? Whew. 598.33. So this is an eye opener. Okay. Here's that trend line. We broke the trend line. We are right here, right at last week's lows, right below it. And the futures is about to take it out right now. This is getting bloody right now. It's getting bloodier. Okay? This is getting This is real. This is real. It's where the rubber meets the road. Okay. So wow, that is quite the move past the 50-day. Already under last week's lows. Okay. Expected move to the downside, 587. So again, last week's lows and the expected move kind of are by each other. I think this could be in the cards today. Okay. Futures. There's the view of last week's lows. We are below it, just like I was saying. Okay. There's the Friday's lows. We're already below them. And this is futures, so that's last month's lows. So this is very realistic that if we go under this low, like I was just saying, this can really dive. Now, this was the export curbs with rare earths in China. This bar, boy oh boy, what is in store for us today? Does this get a kick save? I would say you might get a dead cat bounce here. We'll see. We'll see. I flow like water. I don't predict. I let levels show me what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Okay? Now, let's move over to Bitcoin. Okay? Let's move over to Bitcoin and tell you what I'm seeing. Okay? Give me a second here. Like I said, I can share this workspace, but no one seems to care about that, so that's fine. But if you want to see futures like I do in Ninja and on Thinkorswim, this would be the way to do it. Okay? And we're going to start with Bitcoin. I'm just setting it up. Okay? Very, very key and pivotal level. Let's look at it. All right? So here's the daily chart. Very important. I want to show you Bitcoin. Okay? Bitcoin was battling right here the 200-day moving average, the anchored VWAP from the beginning of the year, right here. That's why it struggled. Okay? 200-day moving average, anchored VWAP for this year. So that means every buyer, I'm going to make sure you understand that, the average buyer from the beginning of the year is underwater in Bitcoin. Every buyer, I'm going to say it again, from the beginning of the year is underwater. Now, what's the other significance? Notice this big hot pink line, right? That is the most traded price of the rolling year. That is the most traded volume. You could see the turquoise, but the pink represents the VPOC of the year. Okay, I believe I have extended, yeah, okay. So that is very, very pivotal. If this Bitcoin cannot hold this, okay. Now, usually these big levels like this stops markets in its tracks. Okay, that's why it's staying there. You don't blow through these levels, but if it starts to move down, right, it can get very, very ugly. Okay. The next big level I have on my chart is 76, around 77. Okay. Let's look at a longer time chart here. These are monthlies. So see this level right here, 93. That's the next level, and then all the way down to 76 and change. Okay. Here's weeklies. Okay. And now I'm going to show you a little shorter time frame, right? This is the month. Okay, this is the month, and this is your anchored VWAP for the month, the pink. Right, so that started obviously at the beginning of November. That would have been here, right? Under that, under the week to date VWAP, right? This is the 5-day moving average. This thing is just cascading, right? And this was the most traded price of this month, right? 108. 108. Once you break 108 and retested it, that was the move lower. Okay? Now, one step further, if we go to Bitcoin on this chart, we can look at the. I like to have these anchored VWAP from last year. Okay? Where is that at? That's at 83,000. That's the anchored VWAP from last year. Okay? But look at this sucker moving down. Man, if that loses 93, 94. Woo! Okay? That's something right there. That is something to look at. Okay? Now, that's about it. I think that's what I wanted to show you guys. I don't think there's anything else to show you. Just, again, message me on my Discord if you want this workspace for Thinkorswim. Okay? I can share it with you guys. All right, moving on. We'll do a simple analysis here in your hourly charts here. Let's get those hourlies up here. Okay, so same thing I talked about. Let's make this 4 hour. Now, let's talk about what happened yesterday and what I was saying pre-market. Now, buyers were in control yesterday. Okay, and remember what I talked about, the anchored VWAPs. Remember I was saying yesterday that we were above the all-time high anchored VWAP. We were above the month-to-date anchored VWAP. We were above the week-to-date anchored VWAP, and from these lows. And remember I said that shows you who's in control. Well, look what happened. Once we got out of ultimate balance, remember I said big moves happen from ultimate balance? Well, guess what happened? We broke these lows, and then we went here, and then we ripped back up to the bottom of this balance. That was all she wrote, because then we took out all of those VWAPs. Everybody was back underwater. Just like that. And then in the overnight, look, we got more selling. Okay? More selling. But I would call this a triple-headed monster of high volume nodes right here. See, this area of previous trading volume usually stops markets. Now we're getting a little bit of a buy here. This area again becomes very crucial for the market. Now we're coming down here again. Notice the ES right now has a higher low. That's last week's lows. Okay? We're in this mess again. So, how you gauge it from the 60, what is this? Give you the levels here. From the about 6709, 6710s, let's say, all the way down to the 6670s. That's the area, and then at last week's lows. That, not that I predict. I want to know today. What do we do today? Do we come down here and hang out? Right? Do we come down here and bounce? Or do we come down here, take out this low, try to hold it, retest it, and ooh boy, ooh boy. Now what I want to show you here is this. See that? That is very susceptible to go down to at least 65.70s. Now, I believe this is the export curve move. I want you to see something here. That was pretty nasty here. That was bought up. Okay, all that could be taken out. All right, all the way down to about the 65. This is a high volume node here, right at 65.25s. Okay, that is very realistic. And I don't know if it happens today. That would be a huge move, but it could set up for next week. So if you do this, and let's say we close here or something, oof, you could just obliterate this. Okay, and then maybe Santa Claus. We're way off the highs now. Okay, that's your ES. That's your ES. Okay, Nasdaq. Nasdaq, remember, is relatively weaker. We are right now getting a little bit of a bounce. Okay, let's switch this over to a 4-hour so we can get a little more clear picture. Okay, we are getting a momentary bounce. It's expected. I mean, people got to take some profits, right? You just don't not take profits. You can let me. Whenever the markets are like this, all right, Nasdaq ticks are like a lot, and they're crazy. It kind of overloads because there's so much tick data that's why the Nasdaq tick is a little slower loader here. Now let's open this up. Okay, let's open this up. Same thing, like I said yesterday, ultimate balance in the Nasdaq. Okay, buyers were showing. Now it was relatively weaker. Ultimate balance was here. Remember I said big moves happen from ultimate balance. As soon as we took out all these lows, right, and you pierced the anchor VWAP from this low, the month to date, everything was taken out. We just started to rip. Had a little consolidation overnight, and then boom, you took back all of last Friday's move. Okay. Now you hit this support level here, and we're bouncing. Now we're back over inside last week's range. What do we do? Now, same thing in the Nasdaq, okay? We want to look at this like 247s in the Nasdaq as the barometer. This swing low, right? Notice the pocket of volume that is here. That means that it's a little vacuum, right? If this market wants to just start to push, it's going to crush this vacuum, and we're going to go where? This is, I think, last month's lows. Also happens to be a high volume node around 241.57s. That could easily be taken out. Maybe that happens next week if this gets continued weakness. Okay? Because you broke this, now you're getting bought. This is a sign of profit taking. And this is what I'm talking about. Do we get a dead cat bounce? Right? Dead cat bounce would just be a little bounce, and then boom, it gets ripped. I don't know. I don't know if people are looking at this like, all right, this is a double bottom, right? You got this, Is it a double bottom? Do I want to buy this? Maybe the Feds can save it today. I don't know. Let's see how violent. It's going to be violent today. I'm telling you right now. It will be violent. ATRs will be out of control. Okay. I'm probably looking to scalp some short moves. Okay. Now, moving on. Let's make a game plan here. Let me change those back to hourly charts. And we're going to go over to the market profile and volume profile. All right. Actually didn't update this yesterday, so I might have to do this in front of you. It doesn't look like I have to update anything there. But what I will update is the most traded price yesterday. We have to change that. Actually, this is gone. Actually, no, let's keep that there. This is what I do every day, usually at the end of the markets. I just mark the most traded price of yesterday. Okay. This becomes a naked VPOC here. Okay. Let's go to the NASDAQ. Let's just do that. If I have to update anything, not really. This naked VPOC was taken out, so let's look at here. And we'll move this down to here. That was the most traded price of yesterday in the NASDAQ. And we'll take this naked VPOC, put it up there. All right. So now we're ready. Let's just look at the daily charts real quick. So there we have our daily charts. Just to see where we're at, right? In a big scheme of things. Like I said, there's some support here. 65.71s. All right. What do we have here? You have an anchored VWAP. See this anchored VWAP from right here? That's from the most traded price of the year. I have that following. It's been support, support, support. That level, folks, lines up with the 100-day moving average. That's about 24329s right there. That could be our destination. Okay? You could look at it on a different. Boy, look at those candles. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Look at those candles. My lord. Of course, it's taking its old time. That's that tick data, man. That takes up a lot of, I guess, memory. Just waiting for it to switch over because that's what I'm saying. These ticks are annoying. That's when you notice super volatility. Oh, come on. It should switch over to my ES chart in a second. That is annoying. I shouldn't have went to that chart. I knew that was going to happen. Should switch over any second. I apologize for this. This is just like I said, when the market's super volatile and there's so many data with ticks and the Nasdaq, because it's a wild beast. It's gonna do this. Man, that's annoying. It's just stuck on this. That is sucks. Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Let's look at this. Let's look at it. All right. This is our market profile and volume profile. All right, so we got thinning out volume here. Gapping down. Big gaps. I always say it. Not easy. Not easy. We came from ultimate balance. Boom, there's yesterday. Boom, there's today. The VPOC's still up here. Most likely is going to shift down. Okay, so we got our gap fill. 67.46. Do we see that today? I don't know. We have a demand zone right there. Big demand zone right here. Okay? Right here. That's your overnight highs. Lines up with the close. Most traded price of yesterday's right here. All right, so this is the triple-headed monster of high volume nodes here. Remember I was talking, and this is last week's lows. What do we do with this area? This whole area is my judge in jury for what the market does today. For what the market does today. I'm actually going to get rid of that, and I'm going to move this up. Like this. Like this. I'm going to put those levels up again. And here's the area, my judge and jury. And down below here is the demand zone. What is support level? Okay, which I think we can make our move down to. Now, I don't know about today, but we'll see. Okay, we will see. All right, let's just get into it. Remember, large gaps are never easy. Never easy. Equities are usually easier to trade because they have their own stories. Okay, because this is the overall S&P 500. The market's got to digest this. All right. Now, one stock just has to digest its own self. Okay. So let's start with, let me see what I want to start with. I'm going to start with the bear side. Okay. Now, you can see volume, which is not a surprise, is hanging around this, let's call it 6700s right here. Not surprised, right? As part of my triple-headed high volume node. I'm not surprised. I think the most traded price will shift down here eventually. Okay. And this is my judge and jury, right? So, if the market is weak, and let's say it opens up, okay, this is a couple scenarios I could see happening here. If we get some type of bounce, right, and there's a lot of scenarios I'm thinking in my head right now. Okay, let's say we bounce off the open. Let me open this up. And that's the price action for the overnight. And let's say we bounce up. And now you see how we move down orderly here in this thin volume? Well, right here is the 50% Fibonacci of the overnights. I would watch that. If that is resistant and we do this, go back into these high volume nodes, any retest is a short. You're going to take out the overnight lows and you're going to test the bounds of my triple-headed monster high volume node. All right, my guess was you'll probably test the last week's low, 66.55s. If this market is in panic mode, this could get very ugly and it can just cascade all the way down to the 6600s. Okay? Now, there's also another way that this can happen. We drop and touch last week's lows, people buy it, and either you reject here at 67, probably like 67 70s, and you roll, or you go to the 6700s and roll. Okay? Using this area. Okay? I don't know if we just gap down and just go. I don't know. I feel like you'll get some type of bounce. Now, if you don't get the bounce, that's market generated information, right? If we just start ripping, whoa, that means seller and panic is in the streets. Okay. Now, the long side. There is definitely moves for longs and shorts. Let's talk about it. Long side. Okay. If if we do one of these, right? Let's say the market pulls back, takes out the overnight lows, bounces here, doesn't go to here, right? And gets a little higher low, you could probably get a nice move to this high volume node. You could probably get, maybe, this is a maybe, to tap right here, the midpoint of the overnights. And there's demand, there's a supply zone right here. You could rip into there, and that's it. Okay? It might roll over. It might roll over. Okay? That's one. Also, a little more bear trappy. You take out those last week's lows, right? And for me, I'd have to, now internals might be less reliable today because it might be so volatile that the internals change on a dime. I've seen that where you got to go more price structure. Okay, so this could rip, do higher low, and then you can get a nice, maybe get the dead cat bounce here. On a day like today, it just feels like to me, I would really be shocked if we filled this gap. I would really be shocked. Just the feeling, the overall feeling, we're back down again. I don't know. I just don't feel it. All right. Moving on. NASDAQ, and I'll get out of here. Okay. NASDAQ. Okay, so price. We already are contesting last week's lows. The most traded price of the overnight is all the way up here. I think it's going to shift here. The NASDAQ member is relatively weak. This is the one to watch. Okay. We tested this demand zone and with this support level here and bounced. Right now, it's not bouncing that much. Could have had the dead cat bounce. Okay. So we want to watch the overnight lows in this demand zone here, which encompasses last week's lows. Remember, all the way here is that low from last Friday. Okay. There is another demand zone down here. But remember I mentioned to you before, there's a big pocket below. Okay. It can get really nasty below here. Really nasty. Okay. Gap fill is your 250s. You got a nice supply zone there. You also have the midpoint right here, 24914s. That's the midpoint of the overnight. You have the overnight highs here with the close. Oh, I forgot to mention this in the ES as well. We are 100% net short in the overnight, and we're at the lower end of the session. I didn't mention this in the ES. It's probably the same. Now, What that does, it gives you the edge for some type of bounce to try to scalp it. Okay? Because we know shorts are getting paid all the way back up, way up here. Higher low, or lower high, lower high, lower high, right? Shorts are getting paid. They're not getting paid. We're at a key level, right? So if you're 100% net short in the overnights, you're at the lows. I can see a bear trap here. Okay, I can see a bear trap for a bounce. Now, does that bounce mean we're going to fill the gap? I don't know. You know, nobody knows how big a bounce can be. I'm not going to claim that. So let's look at it. Let's get some scenarios in here. Let's open this up. That is something I didn't mention in the ES. That's probably true in the ES as well. All right, we'll start off with the shorts. All right, so here we go. This will be the inverse probably of what I just told you. Let's say, okay, we do this. Boom, right? You get the dead cat, and you're like, oh my God. And I think you might go to the midpoint, might go into the supply zone, think you're going to fill the gap, get rejected. Then you get that lower high. That's the roll we could take out. And this is where you can really cascade down to the 245s, down to the 244s, maybe lower. If it gets really bloody. If it gets really bloody. Okay? You don't have that triple-headed monster that's in the same way that you do in the ES, right? You don't have that there in its way. Okay? Now, if we just drop, it's going to drop without me. I'm not just going to short the. It depends. It depends. I can't just say that. But I don't like just shorting lows. You're asking for trouble. Unless I see something that I've seen before. Okay? This is kind of what I really like. I don't. I'd be shocked if we filled the gap today. I'd be really. I would be shocked. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. The more I look at this is kind of what And then we could do this: break, hold, 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 and we're not moving back up. Yeah, you're probably gonna get a move lower. Okay. Now, I'm gonna go with the longs now. The inverse of what I just showed you. This is what I think can happen. Okay. 100% net short. Shorts are getting paid. You're set for some type of correction. I would go with the gap and go. We break the overnight lows. Any recovery like this and a higher low, and you go back into last week's range, I think you could traverse at least up to here, the 249s. At least. You could join that momentary run. Now, of course, gravy is gap fill. That would probably surprise me. And there's a lot of overhead supply here. Okay. I don't know what's going to happen, right? So, what else can happen? Right? That's the bear trap. Now, if the market just starts to rip, right? This, honestly, that's probably what I like. If it just ripped up, I'm probably not going to just go. Most likely not. Most likely not. Be honest with you. Because even reason why I'm having hesitation okay, is I'm not sure. I don't think it's very highly probable we fill the gap today, but anything can happen. I don't think it's probable. I mean, of course, we could drop here to this demand down to this support of 244 and you can get a little bounce. But I mean, the market's going to be so weak. I really only like this play, be honest with you. I have to be honest with you. That's what I like. And that's it, folks. This is going to be a wild session. Buckle in. All right. But smash the like button if you enjoy my analysis. Hope you did. Okay. As always, please join me every morning. I do this every morning. Give you the market story. Give you my probabilities, because that's what I'm, a probabilities based trader, and what's probable of happening, and give you many scenarios. All right. So come join me. Now, if you want to hear live intraday commentary on what I'm seeing, you're going to join my Discord, Confluence Trading. Go to the YouTube homepage, click on the link, and sign up. What are you waiting for? Let me be your indicator. I will tell you the story of the market, not a 1 minute, not a 2 minute, not a 5 minute, the story of what could happen. And you will hear me say, I want to see what we do here. Not we're going to do this. I want to see. Okay? You let price tell you in structure. Oh, we didn't break that level. That's weird. Or, oh my God, they're shorting the heck out of this and we're not moving lower. You see what I'm saying? I'm not predicting anything. It's just you're watching and seeing markers and seeing how they react to certain inflection points, okay? So please join me today. All right? I'll be live. Nothing you got to lose. And listen to the story. Okay? I'm not going to sit there and be some stupid guys telling you, I guarantee you this. This doesn't work like that. Okay? Everybody, today's Friday. Have a great weekend. Buckle up, like I said. No trade's a trade. It's all right. So you have your mental capital and you have your actual capital, and both are important. All right. So everybody have a great weekend. If I don't see you in my Discord, I'll see you guys next